ready to zoom back in for another game, and that's Auburn at Oklahoma. Number 19 versus number 20 here at your Sports Outpost Top 25. -6.5 is what the Sooners have set in terms of them being favorites going into this game. Last year, they stole this one on the road, 27-21 in 2024. There in Auburn, Alabama. And also, OU kind of owns Auburn at the moment. They've only played each other previously 3 times, and all 3 going the Sooners' way. Hugh Freeze comes in this game undefeated, kind of on a high in a way. 31-15 win against South Alabama. The Jags, again, with the week before, played Tulane, took them somewhat to the limit. I think it was 33-30, if I'm not mistaken, or 31. And then the big win already early on this season against Baylor, and kind of the reason why we have them ranked. Baylor beat SMU. That pushes Auburn into the top 25 last week. So they've been ranked at least for 2 weekends here. They beat the Bears on the road in Waco 38-24. Brett Venables also undefeated. 42-3 win over Temple. And then the big win already off in the beginning of the season against Michigan, 24-13. And that's kind of the reason why they were ranked. They basically kicked Michigan out of our top 25 and they joined the pack. The big question is, how does Oklahoma stop their former quarterback, Jackson Arnold? I know a lot of people are not high on this young man, but again, we dug into the stats and this is what we found. Jackson Arnold right now is averaging 231 total yards per game. He has 0 interceptions. He's unfortunately fumbled it twice, but the ball was recovered by an Auburn player, so he has no strikes going against him on that. And right now he's passing the ball pretty efficiently, 69.6% completion percentage. So when he throws the ball, he's probably going to hit. And he has 4 touchdown passes with 4 rushing touchdowns to go along with all those great stats. He's behind the 23rd ranked SPOP offensive line going into 2025. And yeah, he's just a guy that I think is somewhat of an anomaly. I think at the next level, if he's to play in the NFL, he's going to convert to a different position, either a running back or a slot receiver. I think he'd be very useful there. I don't think he's going to be able to play quarterback, or maybe he does do that and then is offering that team packages in like a wildcat formation, because he's just really lethal on the ground. In that Baylor game, we talked, I think, about it with Jake Retzlaff earlier with Northwestern. He burned the Baylor Bears in Waco. Once that secondary turned their heads, didn't respect his legs, Jackson Arnold was like, whoop, found my lane. I think he got a big 39-yard touchdown in that game as well. He's been sacked 6 times. 4 of those were 2 weeks ago against Ball State. So 1 with South Alabama, I believe, and then 1 with Baylor. So he's kind of a little bit of an interesting mix. When he's having to pass the ball, that's when he's gonna get sacked. That again happened against Ball State. When he's not in the pocket, when he needs to move his feet, you probably aren't going to get this guy. And I don't think Oklahoma is going to be able to get to him, to be quite honest with you. I know they already played Bryce Underwood. He's a very athletic young man, but he's not Jackson Arnold with all that experience already at this level. And then on top of that, Jackson Arnold is coming up against his former program in Oklahoma, the team that turned his back really on him and kind of threw him under the bus last year with the OC who got fired mid-season. If you remember it and joined us for that Tennessee-Oklahoma game, for that watch-along, I was very heavily criticizing Oklahoma and the way they handled that whole situation and kind of, again, turning the back on Jackson Arnold, which OU fans might think that's justified, but for me, nah. This guy can cook. If you know how to use him. It looked like Oklahoma didn't know how to do that whatsoever in 2024. Again, 0 interceptions, 69.6% pass completion, that's some just great stuff. And then overall, you're averaging 231 total yards. He doesn't need to pass it, only when he really needs to. And unfortunately, the bald man with the white shirt, I kind of was tuning into his show as I was, working on my notes and stuff. He was talking some ish about Jackson Arnold and how he wasn't really passing the ball down the field. I mean, he just did that this past weekend to Cam Coleman in the end zone, corner of the end zone as well. So he can pass the ball down the field. It just needs to be in the right moments. And also, it kind of needs to be set up. He's not going to straight up stand in the pocket and throw the ball down the field. He needs to have the defense on their heels for that to kind of happen. And I think it could be a game where he can make it happen, actually. And another thing we need to bring up, because you guys, we have a case of an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. This applies for both sides of the ball, as Auburn's run defense is 11th in the country, only allowing 67 yards per game. They'll go up against Oklahoma's 34th run offense, which is getting 183 yards per game. That is going to be some good stuff in the trenches. I'm actually going to be tuning into this one for that noon slot. I think there's a couple other games that are going on, but this is the one I want to watch because of what these two front lines are going to have to do to each other to win this game. The flip side, for when the others are on the from the other side of the field are on the field, Oklahoma's run defense is 17th in the country, only allowing 86 yards per game. That is definitely not going to be a thing. And then Auburn and their run defense is 12th with their run offense, with 242 yards so far per game this season. Again, this is going to be some good stuff in between the trenches. I think a lot of that obviously is going to come from Jackson Arnold. But hopefully his running backs can complement him here, as we'll talk about a few of them in the injury section, unfortunately. Another thing to mention, Auburn's pass defense can give up 400 yards, and the Tigers can still win that game. That happened in that Baylor game. Sawyer Robinson, who I think might be a better quarterback than John Mateer, to be quite honest with you. He's just lighting it up so far here in 2025. He got like 416 or 406 yards, if I'm not mistaken, in that loss to Auburn. So John Mateer so far is averaging 314.6 passing yards per game, and only has one interception. So he's decently protecting the ball. I think he's going to be doing that early on, like he did in that Michigan game. And then when he finds those openings down the field, he'll try to give it a strike. He did throw some off balls there against the Wolverines that I was like, where the hell is he throwing that to? But maybe that was, I think one of those routes was maybe a miscommunication where the receiver went in when he should have stuck out to the sideline. It is what it is, I guess, on those. But again, if he can't get 400 yards passing or mix it up with his feet as well, this might be already a bad sign for Oklahoma. This game will come down to either defenses neutralizing their opponent's run game. We already talked about it, where the case of an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object, it's going to come down to the run defenses and containing all of that. Auburn for injuries, not looking good for the backfield. Damari Alston, he is questionable with a shoulder injury. And then Jarrell Robinson, they transferred from UConn, is also questionable with an undisclosed injury. Might be some backs there, but again, this team runs through Jackson Arnold. He'll be running a lot there in Norman this upcoming weekend. For their opponents, Oklahoma, left tackle and true freshman Michael Fauci has a questionable undisclosed injury. That's not looking good because you don't have your starter, but there should be a guy that should be filling in. I think it's Sexton if Fauci doesn't play. And then a big blow, I think, so far to the season. I know it's a questionable undisclosed injury, but Keontez Lewis, he's going to be questionable going into this. Transfer in from Southern Illinois. He had a pretty good game, I would say, and a pretty good start to his Sooner career. There is a couple great guys. I think it's Burks And then there's one more from Arkansas, Sagatoa or Saginaw, the third. Those guys are going to have to come up big. And then whoever's going to fill up Lewis's shoes if he's not fully ready to go. And then they lose some depth at the interior positions for the line. Torrey Everett, or it might be Troy Everett. I might have misspelled that. He's out with an undisclosed injury. I'm going to go with the underdogs once again against Oklahoma. Auburn by 8 points. Reason why is Jackson Arnold's going to get his revenge, and John Mateer is just going to have a bad night. I really like Auburn in their defense. They have been somewhat, I don't want to say solid in stopping points, because they gave up 24 against Baylor. Baylor is a very experienced team with a very talented quarterback. So I would think the Tigers are a little bit more prepared. It also looked like Michigan was a little not so on the physical side, so that might be a bit misleading, and why we're seeing 6.5 points go in favor of Oklahoma. But again, we are picking the Sooners not at home for another preview here in 2025. As we zoom out.